The morning began like any other for 7-year-old Lena. She walked down the narrow dirt path beside her parents, kicking tiny pebbles, humming to herself, and swinging her small backpack as if it were a treasure chest. The family often took slow walks on weekends, especially near the foot of the old hills behind their village. The place was quiet, filled with tall grass and scattered trees. Birds sang in the distance, and the wind carried the smell of earth and leaves. Nothing about that morning looked unusual, at least not until they reached the wide clearing near the broken fence. Lena's father stopped first. He lifted his head and frowned at the sound of something faint, something that didn't belong. It wasn't a bird. It wasn't an injured animal either. It was a soft cry, almost like a whimper mixed with a tiny hiss. Lena heard it too, but instead of fear, she felt curiosity spread through her chest. Her mother looked unsure. She told Lena to stay close, but Lena was already scanning the field, trying to find the source of the strange sound. Then it happened. Again another cry, louder this time, shaky and full of panic. Lena turned her head toward a fallen tree that lay half buried in mud. Some storm months ago had pushed the tree down, and now vines and weeds crawled all over it. Between two thick roots, she saw movement. Her little heart jumped, not in fear, but in the excitement children feel when they spot something mysterious. Before her parents could react, she stepped forward. She wasn't running, just slowly placing each foot on the grass, as if she didn't want to scare whatever was hiding. There. Her mother called her name softly, warning her to stop, but Lena kept going. Something inside her refused to turn away. The cries were too sad, too helpless, almost like a small child calling for help. When she reached the fallen tree, she crouched down and gently moved a branch aside. What she saw made her gasp not from fear, but from surprise. Curled into a trembling ball was a tiny creature she had never seen before. Its scales were different shapes and different colors, some smooth, some cracked. One wing looked bent, the other folded tightly against its body. Its tail was short and uneven, with little spikes that grew in odd directions. The creature lifted its head slowly, revealing big round eyes that looked tired and confused. A tiny horn sat crooked on its head, as if it wasn't sure which direction it wanted to grow back to most people. The creature would look strange, maybe even unpleasant. But to Lena, standing in the shade of that fallen tree, it looked harmless, almost cute in its own unusual way. She whispered a soft, "Hello," and the creature blinked at her, making a small shaky chirp. It didn't try to attack. It didn't even move away. It just stared, as if it couldn't believe someone had approached it without screaming. Her father came running, pulling her gently back. He didn't yell, but his eyes were wide. He had never seen such a creature in his life. He kept his arm around Lena while he studied it. Her mother stood behind them, unsure whether to be scared or amazed. The creature chirped again, a sound filled with weakness. It looked hungry, lost, and frightened. Some villagers who were nearby heard the noise and came closer. They murmured among themselves, guessing what the creature could be. Some thought it was a sick animal. Others said it must be dangerous. A few stepped back instantly, saying it looked too ugly to be safe. Lena listened to them, but she didn't agree with anything they said. To her, the creature didn't look ugly at all. It looked lonely. She didn't understand how adults could look at something so small and immediately assume it was a threat. She slipped free from her father's arm and moved closer again. Her parents asked her to stop, but something about the creature made her feel calm. She reached into her backpack and took out her small pink scarf. It was soft, her favorite one, but she didn't hesitate. She gently placed the scarf near the creature, giving it something warm to rest on. Everyone watching held their breath, waiting to see if the creature would attack. But it didn't. Instead, it lowered its head onto the scarf and closed its eyes for a moment. As if grateful, Lena smiled and spoke to it softly. "You're cute," she whispered. Her father almost choked in disbelief. The villagers stared at her like she had lost her mind. Cute was the last word any adult would use to describe the creature, but Lena meant it. She wasn't pretending. She wasn't being polite. She saw something gentle where others only saw fear. The creature responded by lifting its head and nudging its snout against her tiny fingers. Its breath was warm and shaky, but gentle. Lena giggled quietly, the sound bright and pure. That small laugh seemed to change the atmosphere. A few villagers stepped closer, surprised that the creature reacted so softly, but others still warned her to step back, saying it could change its behavior at any moment. Lena didn't listen. She felt no danger. Children have a way of sensing things that adults often miss. She could see the creature shaking, its belly rising and falling unsteadily. It wasn't dangerous. It was scared. And it seemed to relax a little whenever she spoke to it. Rain clouds moved overhead slowly, casting shadows across the field. The wind grew colder, and the creature tucked its tail close to its body, trying to stay warm. Lena felt a small ache in her chest, the kind you feel when you see something helpless. She knew she couldn't just walk away. She looked at her parents with pleading eyes. Her father sighed, unsure. He didn't want to upset her, but he also didn't want anything unsafe near his child. Still, the way the creature reacted to Lena softened his heart. It didn't growl. It didn't bite. It didn't even lift a claw. It simply tried to curl into the warmth of the scarf she had offered. Lena gently stroked its head, careful not to hurt it. Its rough scales felt strange under her fingers, but she didn't mind. Her mother knelt beside her, watching closely. Even she couldn't deny that the creature seemed completely harmless in the child's presence. She whispered to her husband that maybe they should help it. The villagers murmured again, some agreeing, some disagreeing. Fear mixed with curiosity filled the air. The creature's stomach growled, a weak, rumbling sound that made it flinch. Lena reacted fast. She looked at the berries her mother kept for snacks during walks. She picked one and held it in front of the creature. It sniffed, hesitated, then gently took it. The villagers gasped. Lena smiled wider. "There," she said, softly. "You're hungry." The creature chirped again, softer this time, almost thankful. Lena felt something warm bloom inside her chest. It felt like the beginning of a bond, something she didn't fully understand, but knew was real. Her father finally spoke. "We need to help it, but we have to be careful." He wasn't convinced the creature was completely safe, but he also saw that forcing Lena away would break her heart. The villagers began discussing what to do, whether to bring it to a shelter, call authorities, or leave it in the wild. But while the adults debated, Lena focused only on the creature. She didn't hear the arguments or the fear. She only saw a small life that needed kindness. She whispered gentle words as she stroked its rough head. The creature looked at her the way a lost animal might look at the first person who shows it hope. For a long moment, everything went quiet. The wind stopped. Even the birds seemed to pause. Lena and the creature simply stared at each other, two small hearts that had met in the most unexpected place. The adults had fear. The villagers had doubts. But Lena had something far stronger. Compassion. And that simple compassion, offered by a little girl with a pink scarf and a brave heart, became the first spark of a bond that would soon surprise everyone around her. The creature spent its first night in a small shelter the villagers made with wooden planks and old cloth. It wasn't fancy, but it protected the tiny hatchling from cold wind and insects. Most adults stayed far away from it, speaking in low whispers as if the creature could understand every word. Some still looked nervous. Others only came close because they wanted to see the strange little thing that had caused so much talk in the village. Lina, however, woke up early the next morning, even earlier than the sun. The moment she opened her eyes, she remembered the creature curled up in her scarf. She jumped out of bed, grabbed another snack from the kitchen, and ran outside before her parents could remind her to eat breakfast. They called out to her, but she was already far down the path, her small feet kicking dust as she hurried to see the hatchling again. When she reached the shelter, she slowed down. She didn't want to startle it. She peeked inside and found it, lying exactly where she left it, using her scarf like a blanket. Its chest rose and fell slowly. For a moment, she wondered if it was still asleep. Then its eyes opened, big and round, staring right at her as if it had been waiting. Lina smiled softly and stepped inside the small shelter. The creature made a tiny sound, something between a chirp and a squeak. It sounded happy, or at least relieved. She sat down carefully, trying not to scare it, and reached out her hand. The creature nudged its head against her fingers, just like it did the day before. It remembered her. She whispered, "Good morning," even though she knew it couldn't understand her words. But it understood her voice, her calm tone, the kindness behind it. That was enough. Outside, 2 villagers walked past, keeping their distance. One of them murmured that the creature still looked strange. The other said he didn't trust anything with wings, even if one of them looked broken. Their voices drifted into the shelter, but Lina didn't respond. She wasn't thinking about how the creature looked. She was thinking about how scared it must have been before she found it. She took out the small bread roll she brought from home and broke a piece off. The creature sniffed the air. It stretched its neck forward slowly, making sure this wasn't a trick. When Lina held the piece closer, it finally took it from her hand. Its teeth were tiny, but they clicked softly as it chewed. Lina giggled softly, covering her mouth so she wouldn't startle it. "You like bread?" she whispered. The creature's tail wiggled slightly. Not in a strong way. Its body was still weak, but just enough to make Lina laugh. It was the first time she saw it move its tail that way. Her father arrived a few minutes later, breathing slightly heavier than usual, because he had hurried after her. He stood at the entrance of the shelter, watching his daughter and the creature together. He still looked unsure, but there was also a softer look in his eyes. Something had changed. Maybe it was the way the creature leaned against Lina. Maybe it was the trust on her face. Or maybe he just didn't want to break the bond she clearly felt so strongly. He sat outside the shelter, giving them space, but also keeping watch. He didn't want anything unexpected to happen. A few other villagers joined him. They didn't go near the creature, but they asked questions about it. Was it dangerous? Was it injured? Was it lost? No one had answers. The creature looked like something from the stories older villagers told. Around fire stories that were interesting, but never fully believed. The creature finished its bread and stared at Lina, blinking slowly. She tilted her head and smiled. She reached into her pocket and found a small pebble she had picked up earlier. It wasn't a special pebble, just smooth and round, but she placed it in front of the creature anyway. To her surprise, the creature sniffed it, then gently tapped it with its tiny claw. Lina clapped her hands quietly. "You know how to play?" she whispered. The creature tapped the pebble again, rolling it a little. Lina pushed it back with her finger. The creature tapped it again. A tiny game began, simple but heartwarming. Lina giggled each time it tapped the pebble. The villagers watching from outside couldn't believe it. They had spent half the evening arguing about whether the creature was a threat, and now here it was playing a game with a 7-year-old child. A group of older villagers approached. They stood farther back, watching with deep frowns. One of them cleared his throat and called for Lena's father. He stepped aside to speak with them, leaving Lena inside the shelter. The older villagers said the creature should be removed, or at least tied up. They said it might grow into something dangerous. They said it was better to be safe than sorry. Lena didn't hear all their words, but she sensed tension in their voices. She hugged the creature gently, whispering, "Don't worry," even though she wasn't sure everything would be okay. She only knew she wanted to protect it. Her father came back after a long discussion. His face was thoughtful. He asked Lena to step outside for a moment. She hesitated but obeyed. The creature chirped softly when she moved away. She turned around and whispered, "I'll be right back," then followed her father. He knelt down to her height. "Some people are scared," he said gently. "They don't understand the creature the way you do." Lena looked down, her fingers twisting her shirt nervously. She asked if they were going to take it away. Her father sighed and said he didn't want that, but they needed to make sure everyone stayed safe. Lena grabbed his hand. "But it's not bad," she said softly. "It's just scared, like a baby." Her father knew she truly believed that, but he also knew he had to consider the rest of the village. Before he could respond, the creature let out a small distressed sound from inside the shelter. Lena immediately ran back, and her father followed. When they stepped inside, they saw that the creature was trembling again. Maybe it had sensed the tension outside. Maybe it thought Lena wasn't coming back. She knelt beside it. The creature calmed a little, leaning into her touch. Lena looked back at her father, her eyes pleading for understanding. He took a deep breath. "We will keep it here for now," he said, loud enough for the villagers outside to hear. "But we will watch it. We won't hurt it." Some villagers whispered unhappily, but no one argued loudly. They respected Lena's father, and they knew he wasn't careless. For the next hour, Lena stayed beside the creature, humming songs her mother used to sing. Her voice was soft, but it filled the small space with warmth. The creature slowly relaxed, its body losing the tension it held moments before. The villagers outside didn't understand it, but they couldn't deny what they saw. The creature trusted Lena completely. It didn't trust anyone else, not even a little. But it trusted her. As the sun climbed higher, a gentle light entered the shelter. It made the creature's oddly shaped scales shine slightly. Some of the villagers noticed this and whispered again, but this time their tone was not fear, just curiosity. Lena didn't care about their whispers. She held out her hand, and the creature placed its tiny claw on her palm. It was the first time it had done that. She smiled wider than she had all morning. "You'll be okay," she whispered. "I'll take care of you." The creature blinked slowly, then leaned its head against her arm. For a moment, Lena forgot about all the fear around her. She forgot about the villagers watching, the arguments, the uncertainty. All she saw was a small creature that needed comfort, and she gave it without her small hand touching its tiny claw would soon change everything around her. It was only connection that no one in the village had ever imagined. The next morning, Lena woke up with excitement she could hardly contain. She had barely eaten breakfast when she ran outside, her little feet stirring up dust as she hurried down the path toward the shelter. The sun was just rising, painting the sky in soft shades of pink and orange. Birds sang in the distance, but Lena barely noticed. Her mind was focused only on the tiny creature she had come to care for. When she arrived at the shelter, she found the creature sitting up for the first time, its uneven wings stretching slightly, though still weak. Its tail moved slowly, and its head tilted curiously at her arrival. Lena's heart swelled. She knelt beside it and whispered softly, "Good morning. Did you sleep well?" The creature chirped in response, a little louder than yesterday, as if trying to answer. Lena laughed quietly. She reached into her small backpack and pulled out a piece of bread she had saved from home. The creature sniffed it, then took it gently from her hand. Lena noticed that its small eyes seemed brighter today, filled with more curiosity and alertness. She realized that even in just one day, the little hatchling had begun to gain strength. The villagers were slowly gathering at a safe distance, watching quietly. Some whispered to one another, clearly amazed that a child had bonded with such a strange creature. Others shook their heads, unsure of how a dragon hatchling could ever be tamed, even by the gentlest of humans. Lena didn't care about their opinions. She only cared about the creature, and she knew that the creature cared about her too. Lena spent hours sitting by the hatchling, talking to it, singing to it, and gently stroking its rough scales. She noticed small changes as the day passed. The creature's wings stretched a little further, its tail wagged more confidently, and it even tried to stand on shaky legs. Lena clapped quietly and encouraged it. "You're doing so well. You're strong," she said. Each word seemed to make it more willing to move and explore its small world. Her father came by occasionally to check on her and the creature. He brought fresh water in a small bowl and watched quietly from a distance, making sure Lena and the hatchling were safe. He still didn't fully understand the bond, but he could see it clearly forming. The hatchling trusted Lena completely, and she in turn trusted it. That was enough for him to give them space. By mid-morning, Lena had decided to introduce the hatchling to a new game. She found a small pebble and rolled it gently across the dirt floor of the shelter. The creature's eyes followed it immediately. Its tiny claws tapped the pebble, rolling it back toward Lena. She laughed softly, clapping her hands. "Good job." "You're learning," she whispered. The creature chirped again, a sound that seemed like pride, and tapped the pebble a few more times before it stopped to rest. As Lena continued to play with the hatchling, she noticed something important. The creature seemed to mimic her movements. If she lifted her hand, it lifted its head. If she tapped the pebble, it tapped in response. Lena realized that it was not just learning physically, but also emotionally. It responded to her gestures, her voice, and her patience. Lena decided it was time to explore the area around the shelter carefully. She wanted to see if the creature could move outside safely, though she kept the adult's warnings in mind. She held the creature gently in her arms and stepped outside into the morning light. The grass felt cool under her feet, and the air smelled fresh after a small rain the night before. She set the hatchling down carefully on a soft patch of grass. It trembled at first, unsure of the open space, but Lena stayed close, whispering encouraging words. Slowly, the creature started to walk, its legs wobbly but determined. Lena clapped softly. "Yes, you're brave," she said. The hatchling responded with a small chirp, and for the first time, it didn't seem afraid of the open space. The villagers who were watching were astonished. Some whispered among themselves, pointing out how unusual it was to see a wild creature follow a human child so willingly. Others still looked skeptical, but even their eyes betrayed a hint of wonder. Lena didn't notice. She was too busy guiding the hatchling, letting it explore the grass and small flowers around the shelter. By afternoon, Lena had discovered a small stream nearby. She led the hatchling carefully to the water's edge. The creature sniffed the water, then touched it with a tiny claw. It jumped back quickly, startled by the cool sensation. Lena laughed softly. "It's okay. It's just water," she whispered. She picked up a small pebble and dropped it gently into the water. The creature watched, fascinated. It chirped and tapped the water with its claw, sending tiny ripples across the surface. Lena smiled. See? You can play with it too, she said. As the day went on, Lena and the hatchling began to develop small routines. She brought food, water, and a soft blanket. She played games, told stories, and sang quietly when the creature seemed restless. Each time, the hatchling responded, sometimes nudging her hand, sometimes resting its head on her shoulder, and sometimes tapping pebbles back toward her. Lena felt proud, but more than that, she felt connected. By evening, the sky turned golden, and the sunlight glowed softly on the creature's small scales. Lena noticed that it was more confident now. It could walk short distances, flap its wings slightly, and even chirp in what sounded like excitement. Lena clapped quietly. "You're amazing," she whispered. She could feel her heart swell with happiness. Her parents and a few villagers approached to see the progress. Even those who were skeptical couldn't deny the bond they saw. The hatchling trusted Lena completely, following her movements and responding to her voice. It was no longer just a strange creature. It had become part of Lena's world. That evening, Lena sat beside the hatchling, stroking its head and whispering softly. "Tomorrow, we'll try something new," she said. The hatchling blinked slowly, almost as if it understood. It leaned its head against her arm, and Lena smiled. She felt that tiny creature had already changed her life in ways she didn't fully understand. The villagers returned to their homes, leaving Lena and the hatchling alone. The wind whispered through the trees, and the last rays of sunlight lit up the shelter. Lena hugged the creature gently, feeling its warmth against her small body. She whispered again, "You're safe now. I promise I'll take care of you." The hatchling let out a soft chirp, and for a moment, everything felt peaceful and right. That night, Lena lay beside the creature, covering it with her scarf and softly humming a song. Its small body was calm, and its breathing steady. Lena realized that this tiny life depended on her, and she was willing to do anything to protect it. She closed her eyes, thinking of all the adventures they would share, all the lessons they would teach each other, and all the challenges they would face together. In those quiet moments, Lena understood something very important. Even though the hatchling looked strange, even though it was different from anything anyone had seen before, it had a heart that could trust and love, and she had a heart that could protect and care. That bond, fragile but real, was something no one could take away, no matter what anyone said. And so, as the night deepened and the stars twinkled softly above, Lena and the hatchling rested together, beginning the next chapter of a friendship that would grow stronger every day. She knew that life would be full of surprises, challenges, and moments that tested their trust. But she also knew one thing clearly: she had found something rare and precious, something worth protecting, worth loving, and worth believing in. The next few days were quiet, but Lena could feel the tension in the village growing. Word had spread about the small creature she had found, and while some villagers were curious, many were still wary. They whispered in corners, casting worried glances toward the shelter where Lena spent hours with the hatchling. Some even suggested calling outsiders, people who studied strange animals, to take it away. Lena didn't understand why anyone would want to remove her friend. She only knew that the creature had nowhere else to go, and that it trusted her completely. Each morning, Lena woke early as usual, her excitement never fading. She hurried to the shelter, her small feet barely touching the ground as she ran through the soft grass. The hatchling was always waiting, its big round eyes blinking slowly, scanning for her. Sometimes it chirped softly before she even arrived, as if it had known she would come. Lena knelt beside it and whispered, "Good morning. Did you sleep well?" Its tiny body moved closer to her, and she felt a warm sense of trust in that simple gesture. But not everyone in the village shared that trust. That morning, Lena noticed several adults lingering near the edge of the clearing. They watched silently, arms crossed and brows furrowed. Their whispers carried through the air, words like dangerous and strange, drifting toward her ears. Lena didn't understand why they were afraid. The hatchling had never hurt anyone. It had never even hissed at them. She reached out, her hand, and gently stroked its head, and it chirped softly, leaning into her touch. Her father appeared quietly beside her, kneeling to her height. "Lena," he said softly, "some people are scared. They don't understand what the creature is like. We have to be careful." Lena looked up at him, her big eyes filled with concern. "But it's not dangerous," she whispered. "It's just scared, like a baby. I know it won't hurt anyone if we're careful." Her father sighed, knowing there was no way to argue with her. She believed in the hatchling completely, and he could see how much she cared. That afternoon, Lena decided to show the creature more of the clearing. She carried it carefully, keeping it close to her chest. Its tiny claws tapped lightly against her shirt, and it chirped softly, as if it was excited to explore. When she set it down, the hatchling hesitated at first, looking at the tall grass and open space. Lena kneeled beside it and whispered, "It's okay. I'm right here." Slowly it began to walk, its small legs wobbling slightly but moving forward. Lena clapped softly and smiled, encouraging it. As the hatchling explored, Lena noticed how curious it was about everything. It sniffed the flowers, nudged small rocks with its snout, and tapped pebbles with its tiny claws. It even tried to flap its wings slightly, though they were still too weak to lift it off the ground. Lena laughed softly. "You're so brave," she said. "Look at you, exploring everything." The creature chirped back, almost proudly, and Lena felt a swell of happiness. However, not everyone was happy. A group of villagers had gathered near the edge of the clearing, speaking in low but urgent tones. One man muttered, "It's only a matter of time before it grows bigger. What if it becomes dangerous?" Another woman added, "We should call someone who knows how to handle creatures like this. A child shouldn't be responsible." Lena overheard their words and felt a small ache in her chest. She didn't understand why anyone would think her friend was dangerous. Her father placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. "Lena, I know you trust it, but we have to think about everyone in the village too," he said. Lena looked at him, her small face serious. "I know, but it's not hurting anyone," she said softly, "and it trusts me. That means it won't hurt anyone if I'm with it." Her father couldn't argue with that. The creature did indeed trust Lena, and that trust was obvious in the way it leaned into her hand, chirped softly, and followed her every move. To give the hatchling more comfort, Lena decided to spend the afternoon teaching it simple games. She rolled a small pebble across the grass, and the creature tapped it back with its tiny claw. She laughed quietly each time it succeeded, clapping softly. The creature seemed proud each time it played the game, chirping excitedly. Villagers watching from a distance couldn't help but notice how gentle and careful Lena was with it. Even those who were worried began to see that the creature responded only to kindness, not to fear or anger. By late afternoon, the sky had turned a warm golden color. Lena and the hatchling rested under a large tree near the clearing. Lena stroked its head and whispered softly. "Tomorrow we'll explore a little further," she said. The hatchling blinked slowly, leaning its head against her arm. For Lena, those small moments of trust and connection were more important than anything else. She felt proud that her friend was growing stronger and more confident each day. But tension continued to grow in the village. Rumors spread quickly. Some villagers claimed the creature might have a dangerous parent nearby. Others insisted that it could become unpredictable as it grew. Lena overheard the whispers and felt a pang of worry. She didn't want anyone to take her friend away. She only wanted to protect it, to give it the care it needed. Her father noticed her concern and knelt beside her. "We'll figure this out together," he said. "For now, let's focus on helping it grow and stay safe." Lena nodded, feeling a little better. She knew her father cared about the hatchling too, even if he worried about the villages. Opinions. As evening approached, Lena returned to the shelter with the hatchling. She wrapped it gently in her scarf and whispered, "You're safe now. No one will hurt you." The creature chirped softly and snuggled closer, its small body warm against hers. Lena felt a deep sense of responsibility. She had promised to care for it, and she intended to keep that promise no matter what. Later that night, Lena lay beside the hatchling, humming softly. Its tiny breathing was steady, and it rested peacefully against her. Lena thought about the villagers' fear and her own determination to protect her friend. She knew that the days ahead might be difficult, but she also knew that trust and kindness could overcome fear. She closed her eyes, thinking about the future. She imagined teaching the hatchling to explore safely, helping it grow stronger, and showing the village that it was not dangerous. Most of all, she imagined the bond between them growing deeper each day, built on trust, care, and gentle moments like this. Even though the world outside might not understand, Lena knew the truth. The creature was not ugly or scary. It was a small life that needed love and protection. And as she drifted into sleep, she whispered once more, "I'll keep you safe always." The hatchling chirped softly in response, as if it understood, and the two of them rested together, ready to face whatever challenges tomorrow might bring. The morning sun rose slowly, painting the sky in soft orange and pink, and Lena woke with her usual excitement. But today, there was a tension in the air she could feel deep in her chest. The wind was stronger than usual, rustling the leaves and carrying the scent of smoke from far away. Lena didn't know it yet, but a challenge was coming that would test the trust between her and the hatchling. She ran toward the shelter, her small feet moving quickly over the soft dirt path. The hatchling was already awake, its uneven wings twitching slightly, and it chirped softly when it saw her. Lena laughed and reached out her hand. "Good morning," she whispered. The hatchling nudged her fingers with its small snout, and she stroked its head gently. Its trust in her had grown stronger each day, and Lena felt proud of that. As they played near the edge of the clearing, a strong smell of smoke drifted closer. Lena paused, her eyes narrowing. The villagers had been talking about small brush, fires in the hills, and now it seemed one of them had moved closer to the village. She looked at the hatchling. Its small eyes blinked nervously, and it let out a soft, frightened chirp. Lena knelt beside it. "It's okay," she whispered. "We'll be safe together." But deep down, she felt her heart beat faster. She had never faced a real danger like this before. Suddenly, the fire leapt closer, pushed by a strong wind. The flames were not huge yet, but they moved quickly across dry grass, sending smoke and sparks into the air. Lena could hear the distant crackling, and she realized the hatchling might be trapped if the fire reached them. She had to act fast. She picked it up gently, holding it close to her chest, and ran toward the safer side of the clearing. The hatchling trembled against her, but Lena whispered softly, trying to calm it. "It's okay. I'm right here. We'll be safe." As they ran, Lena noticed some villagers standing at a distance, shouting warnings but frozen by fear. They couldn't approach without risking the flames themselves. Lena felt a surge of determination. She couldn't wait for help. She had to protect the hatchling herself. Her small legs moved as fast as they could, her heart pounding, but she kept her focus on the little life in her arms. A falling branch blocked part of the path, and Lena hesitated for just a moment. The hatchling chirped anxiously, sensing the danger. Lena took a deep breath, crouched, and lifted the creature gently over the branch. Its tiny claws scratched lightly against her shirt, but it didn't struggle. Lena whispered, "Almost there. You're safe with me." She could feel its tiny body tense against her, but it stayed close. They reached a small patch of green near a stream, untouched by the fire. Lena set the hatchling down carefully. It looked around, unsure of the smoke-filled air, and let out a small, frightened chirp. Lena knelt beside it and stroked its head. "You're okay now," she whispered. "We made it." The hatchling leaned into her touch, and Lena felt a deep relief wash over her. But the fire wasn't done. Sparks and smoke drifted toward them. Again, and Lena realized they had to move further. She lifted the hatchling into her arms and started running along the stream. Water splashed lightly under her feet, and the hatchling chirped softly, but it didn't struggle. Lena whispered reassuring words, trying to keep both their spirits calm. "We're almost there. Just a little further." After what felt like hours, they reached a small grove of tall trees where the fire couldn't reach. Lena set the hatchling down again. Its breathing was fast and shaky, and it pressed its tiny body close to hers. Lena hugged it gently, whispering soft words of comfort. "You're safe now," she said. "We made it through together." The hatchling let out a small, relieved chirp, leaning its head against her shoulder. The villagers began to arrive slowly, watching in amazement. Some of them had finally gathered courage to help, but Lena had already led the hatchling to safety. Her father came running, his face full of worry. He knelt beside her and the hatchling, placing a protective hand on both. "You were brave," he said softly. "I don't know how you managed it all by yourself," Lena smiled, brushing her hair out of her eyes. "I had to protect it," she said simply. "It trusts me." The villagers watched quietly, seeing the bond between the child and the hatchling more clearly than ever. They realized that the creature was not dangerous. It was loyal, trusting, and gentle, especially when someone treated it with care. Even those who had feared it before began to whisper in admiration of Lena's bravery. As the fire died down in the distance, Lena stayed beside the hatchling, holding it close. She could feel its small heart beating against hers, fast but steady. Slowly. She knew it had been scared, and she had been scared too, but they had faced the danger together. That shared experience had strengthened their bond in a way nothing else could. By evening, the village had returned to its quiet state, and Lena and the hatchling were finally able to rest. She wrapped it in her scarf and hummed softly, stroking its head gently. The hatchling nuzzled into her, chirping softly as if thanking her for keeping it safe. Lena smiled, feeling a warmth in her chest she couldn't explain. It wasn't just love, it was pride, relief, and a deep sense of connection. Her father watched quietly, sitting nearby. He had never seen courage like this from anyone so small. He realized that Lena's bravery and patience were not just about protecting the hatchling. They were about understanding it, respecting it, and trusting it completely. That trust, he knew, was rare, and it was something no one else in the village could replicate. That night, Lena lay down beside the hatchling, humming the same gentle songs she had sung since they first met. Its tiny body pressed against hers. Breathing slowly and calmly, Lena whispered, "We did it. You're safe now." The hatchling chirped softly in response, almost as if it understood. She closed her eyes, feeling a deep sense of peace. She knew that challenges would come again. The fire had been only one test, and there might be more dangers in the future. But she also knew something stronger than fear, trust, love, and courage. She had seen the hatchling rely on her, and she had seen herself rise to protect it. That mutual trust would guide them through whatever lay ahead. Even as the night grew quiet and the stars shone above, Lena felt a bond she had never experienced before. The hatchling was more than a strange creature. It was a friend, a companion, and someone who believed in her as much as she believed in it. And Lena knew deep down that as long as they faced the world together, they could overcome any fear, any danger, and any doubt. With the fire now far away and the village calm, Lena finally allowed herself to relax. She hugged the hatchling, close, whispering promises she intended to keep. "We'll explore more tomorrow," she said softly. "We'll play more, and you'll get stronger. I'll always be here for you." The hatchling let out a soft, content chirp and nestled into her scarf. For Lena, the events of the day had shown something important. Bravery wasn't just about running or fighting. It was about caring for someone else, protecting them when no one else could, and trusting that together you could face even the scariest moments. She had learned that even the smallest hands could make a difference, and even the smallest hearts could be incredibly brave. As the night deepened, Lena held the hatchling close and whispered once more, "You're safe now. We made it." Its soft chirp was the only answer she needed. Together they rested, ready for the next day, ready for the adventures that awaited, and ready to face the world as a team bound by trust, courage, and love.